Everyone in the bariatric world is telling you to get a DEXA scan. Your surgeon mentions it, the Facebook groups are obsessed with it, and I get it. It sounds like the most legit scientific way to track your progress. But I want to tell you something nobody in this space is going to say out loud. I think DEXA scans are overrated for most bariatric patients, and chasing one might actually be sending you in the wrong direction. Today we're breaking down the data that actually matters after surgery, and none of it starts with a scale or a fancy machine. We are 78 episodes in, and one of the most common things we hear from people in the bariatric community is some version of this. I hit my goal weight, my surgeon is thrilled, so why do I feel like garbage? Why do I look emaciated? And why am I exhausted all the time? That question is exactly why we're recording this episode today. Because here's the problem. The entire bariatric medical system is built around one number, the scale. And more specifically, the lowest number that scale ever shows you. The surgeon celebrates it, your family celebrates it, you post on Instagram, but nobody is asking what your labs look like. Nobody is asking how much muscle you kept, and nobody is asking if you can climb a flight of stairs without your heart rate going through the roof. The system optimized you for a number and forgot to optimize you for a life. So today, I'm bringing the Busy Bariatrics team in, and they're bringing each of their own data points to the table, the ones we actually coach around, and we are going to tell you exactly why we track them, what they mean, and what do they do when they are moving in the wrong direction. Plus, I'm going to make a case for the most underrated number in all of post-op nutrition that almost nobody is talking about. So if you're a post-op and you are only watching the scale, you're pretty much flying blind. And the consequences are not just cosmetic. We're talking labs that look like a warning sign, a body that is losing muscle faster than fat, energy levels that make you feel like you're 80 years old, and a long-term regain risk that nobody warned you. This episode might change how you think and your entire post-op journey. But first, welcome to the show, ladies. How we doing today?
Hello.
Good.
I know, always awkward, like we open up with like the super long opening and then we kind of just banter for a little bit. So we're recording this and it is coming out the first week of July, and I feel like June absolutely flew by. Kylie, we were in LA this week, or we were in LA at some point in June, if I remember. Yeah, right?
Yeah, it was such a quick trip, but such a fun trip.
Definitely like one of for the ages, flying in and then realizing the World Cup was hosting one of the first games in LA definitely was interesting, but we got to get in and out. We got to take our clients out to dinner that night. We got to drive with the top down on a Jeep. What was one of your highlights of the trip?
I think honestly, just getting to the beach early on Saturday when it was just us and our clients. And I mean, essentially we went to the wrong spot on the beach. So that's kind of what ended up happening, but it happened, and just connecting with our clients and getting our feet wet and taking pictures of the beach was probably my favorite part of the entire trip.
I will say I'm always happiest at bariatric events, but when we get those special moments where we either take our clients to dinner or we just get a quiet moment where we're walking, and for years, I love everything we do at these events, but when you get to like just get eyeball to eyeball and talk to so many of them, and I think you earned like a mustard collection while you were there.
I did. Oh my gosh. Yes. I did. I came home with like 8 mustards from Trader Joe's and a super cute Trader Joe's bag, because everybody knows my obsession with mustard, and our clients,
Everyone brought them.
they hooked me up. And one of my containers of mustard may or may not be already gone.
That makes sense and tracks for you. I will say this was probably the first event where you had more clients there than I did. And it was really cool to see because they really do flock to you and love you. And it was just nice to watch like them connecting with you, spending a lot of time, and just getting to have that whole experience.
I just feel like the bariatric community brings something out in all of us because it's so comforting and comfortable, and everybody is just so, I don't know, kind and welcoming. And so, yeah, I love it.
I will say it was also really fun. Riss and Chris did a great job of having the beach event and having beach games. And they put me and Kylie in charge. And I, of course, as the leader, did the absolute perfect move of being like, Kylie, you're in charge of this. And I delegated right off the rip for it. And Kylie, of course, like, you're always so kind. And then you kind of locked into action and was like, okay, we have teams. There is blue and red, and Rob is blue, and they are going down. And it was like a fun competition between potato sack races, tug of war, and everything else. It ended up being a really nice day.
Yeah, no, it was super fun. I loved I'm not really a competitive person unless
I highly disagree because that whole Saturday showed otherwise.
The games showed otherwise, right? Because I'm not competitive unless I know you, and I was like, Rob, you're going down, right? But like if it were anybody else, I would have been like, it's fine, right? But I was like, no, this is Rob's team, and Rob's team needs to lose.
There was absolute blood in the water, but then the best part was after we finished up with society, we ended up meeting one of my longtime friends, Bailey, and we played pickleball with her and her parents, and I got to watch your pickleball career kind of take off from that.
You know what? I was actually a little impressed with my pickleball as well. Being a first-time pickleball player, I've never done it before. And when her and her parents said, usually when people say they're a beginner, they're like hitting the balls out of the court over the fence, and we're like chasing balls the whole time. And so they gave me a lot of compliments because I didn't hit one ball over the fence. So maybe that's like a future thing for me.
I am pretty sure Kylie is ready to hustle for money. You really took to it well, and you jumped in, and you're good. Like, give yourself some credit there. It was fun to play, and it's always like another one of my favorite things at bariatric events is like I feel like pickleball is a nice entry level sport for everyone because it allows everyone to go. And it was an intense game. It was fun, but by the time we got done that, we had dinner on the beach at one of the beach bars. We went to a surf shop. We got donuts. And then I flew home for my daughter's graduation the very next day. And I realized that red eyes are the devil because we pretty much went to LA on Friday morning. And then I left Saturday night. So I think it took me like the full rest of June to cover from that. But then we were there. So Lisa, Stacy, I know you're kind of like sitting just killing time till this is done. How was your June?
A little bit of everything. Yeah. Well, first of all, I have to ask you: was it the honey mustard, the hot honey mustard that you finished off? Because I just bought some, and I need to know.
It was the hot honey mustard that is gone.
Okay. I just bought it. I just bought a jar of it yesterday, so I recommendation from everybody. So I'm excited. Okay. So, June's been a little crazy for me because, as Kylie just alluded to, I am retiring from my full-time job on August 3rd. So there's been a whole lot of prep for that. There's more paperwork than I don't know what. I feel like there's more paperwork than if I were doing 10 years worth of taxes in 1 year to get ready to retire. So that's my June has basically been paperwork on top of course, webinar prep and summer camp stuff and all of the fun, busy bariatric stuff that I love to do. I'm also doing things like applying for my pension and applying for my retiree medical benefits and helping my husband file for Social Security and not Social Security, Medicare, and like all of that fun stuff. And then time with my granddaughter and just it really has flown by. So yes.
I will say, like, June also has 5 Tuesdays in it. As of this recording, it'll be in July. But we had some awesome summer camp speakers too. We had Shelly Southall did like an amazing job of really talking about like what discipline actually means for our campers and really like flipped it on its head. Josh Wiener is always one of my favorites. The guy helped me get out of 6 figures of credit card debt and really just tried and true, like nothing too crazy and over the top. And then Lisa, you got to have like your dream person.
It was my fangirl moment with Beth Baracco. It was so awesome. And it was a moment where I was kind of sorry that we don't record the Q&A afterwards because I totally baited her so that she would say what I knew she would say about menopause and fitness. Yes, it was a great moment.
I will say I was very proud because when we got to the Q&A, which we do at the end of these, like we have the recorded segment, like Lisa says, but then like Lisa really did hop in and start asking Beth questions, and watching the two of them just kind of vibe with each other and really like connect. It's my favorite part of summer camp, seeing how many of the top industry coaches teach the exact same philosophies we have and continue to do the work. And then Mike Shea did a phenomenal job as the Busy Bariatrics dietitian, and then talking about like identity reframes. And I was really just so impressed by how many parents were on that call and just really hopped in with some really vulnerable, raw questions about how do we feed our children? What does that look like? If I have disordered relationships with eating, how do I change that? And Mike handled it like a champ. Like I thought he did a phenomenal job on it. So, and next month we actually, like, the good times keep running. We have Summer Kessel is kicking off July, and then we have Kristen Willard from Bariatric Academy, Hannah Schuyler from Betsy Dovek's practice, and then Lisa, you're giving your own one.
I am.
Always a big move. So I remember Kylie's first year presenting before she came on to coach with us, and she really stole the show that year. And we had some really good names, but Kylie, I was always so impressed with on that, so much so that I didn't show up that week. I flat out was like, you know what? That was the week where it's like I took 44 one-to-one clients and realized immediately I was overwhelmed. And Kylie was the only person I really trusted to be like, you know what? You're in charge of the Zoom. Send me a recording. And when I watched it the next day, I was like, you know what? I got to work with her more. And just an awesome week.
Thank you. But I am very excited for you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to get into the real stuff now that we covered all the fun stuff. Let's get into like some data points, because I feel like this time of year, people are either freshly out of surgery or they're coming up on their surgiversaries. And it either becomes this time of like, how fast can I lose? Or why didn't I hit my goal weight? And I think a lot of the times, like when we talk about the scale, we have like this weird relationship, because ultimately we did have bariatric surgery to lose weight. But at the same time, like the lowest number on the scale is not necessarily a health metric so much as I would like to argue a vanity metric, in the sense that like, if that's really the only number you're looking at, you're probably missing a lot. And I will say, I think the dumbest thing that we do is we do the DEXA scans. And I know like a lot of people are going to hate this, but for those that don't know how a DEXA scan works, is you essentially get put on a pad, they let you hold the receptacles and everything, and it measures head to toe, soup to nuts and everything. And a lot of gyms use it and pay, either charge you or it's a premium membership to get to that, and they give this rate for it. And the problem is, you have to, in order to like compare apples to apples, have the exact same water weight on it, everything else. So like a lot of the times clients will be like, look at this DEXA scan. I'm like 5 pounds less water than this. And that means that like I'm dehydrated, but I also gained like 12 pounds of muscle. And it's like, no, it read it wrong, but you definitely are out the $140 for those two things. And just, ladies, your thoughts on DEXA scales. Am I wrong here? Am I right? What are they good for?
So I will say, this is the first, I traditionally get one on my birthday, and I did not do that this year. Honestly, it's kind of a vanity thing. And in fairness, I had recomped between the first and second one. So I got to like pat myself on the back and see a bunch of results and stuff like that. The most worthwhile parts of a DEXA are actually your bone density. So, especially at my age. So yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I feel like it's more vanity than useful.
I think there's like a time and a place, and there's like a right person for a DEXA scan. And then there's someone who like maybe doesn't need it, but like Lisa said, you just want it because it's a vanity thing. Maybe it's a piece of information that you just want and a waste of maybe money and time. But, you know, I'm always just like, like, tell me more about your habits. And then, you know, maybe I can tell you if you need it or not, you know, but like, what are you doing, or why are you wanting to get the DEXA scan?
I will say I went to a big box gym, and they were notoriously bad of, we're going to give you a DEXA. Here, come take the DEXA. Get your shoes off. You're going to hop on this thing with the DEXA. Like, I don't like being barefoot when they don't wipe it down and there's no wipes in the room either, which I'm like, oh, we're just feet on feeding this thing the whole way through. And then the worst part is, the guy who came on had literally no neck, because I'm pretty sure he had a full like collar of steroid needles around him. Like his like, he just, you couldn't make this physique if you tried. And he was like, do you know your body is like 28% water? And I was like, please do tell. He's like, do you know that you could be like hydrating yourself to like heart failure. And again, he doesn't know I used to be 365 pounds, but like he tried to sell me a bill of goods off that DEXA scan between supplement stacks. I needed a personal trainer 4 days a week. If I didn't do this, I was essentially going to die. And like, I never like saying when I go into any place like, yes, I'm an online fitness nutrition coach, but like that was a horrible experience that played on all the fears of people. And then the best part was it was the year that I had to do my photo shoot. So it's like, I really only bought that gym membership. Everyone drinks because I said photo shoot on the podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube, they slammed it. There you go, Kylie. Last in, first out, or however they say it. But anywho, I went back in and rescheduled for the second one the day of the shoot. And they're like, why do you need this at 5:30 in the morning? I told them for spite. Just for sheer spite, I want this thing. And I was like, can you please tell Bill at Edge Fitness in Cherry Hill, because it rhymes, and I hope he's not there, but if he is, like, come see me. I was essentially like, yeah, I've lost like another 20 pounds and maintained all of my muscle mass. And oh, look, I'm still the same water weight. So, like, I just worry when I see some of these, like, big fancy scales do well. Stace, your thoughts?
I have personally never had a DEXA scan, nor will I ever probably have a DEXA scan. I don't see the value in it. If I need to see my bone density, I get a bone density scan every year, and they tell me, hey, you're never going to have osteoporosis, and you're probably never going to break a hip. And I go, okay, cool.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's all I need to know. I think that sometimes you can almost tilt into the world of too much information and not enough action. Going back to what Kylie said, like, show me your habits, show me your tracking, show me what you're doing for your workouts. And if you can't nail that, then you don't need to go out and find out what's on that DEXA scan first.
I think that's a really good way to put it, Stace, and always a good thing. And I will always say, like, if people are like, well, I want to see how much body fat I lose, I am still using the same Renfo scale I started my bariatric journey on. Mm-hmm. And here's the trick. Like, it's like a $25 scale. I'll give her the credit. Des, woke up like Des on Instagram, recommended it on a Barry Nation episode, I want to say 23, to give you, like, back in the olden days, like back when, everything was firing, and I had that one, and essentially I followed this. If the body fat percent number and the scale number went down, I was doing something right. If the body fat percentage number was going up, but the scale was going down, I was losing, muscle. And if both were going up, that was okay, I'm gaining muscle, but am I gaining it at a rate of everything else? And I think so many times we overcomplicate body fat.
I'm going to give you two good things that I got out of my DEXA though. The first one is that I did tell them that I was bariatric and that I'd lost 154 pounds. And they did say to me that they hadn't seen numbers like that from somebody, and muscle numbers from somebody who had lost that much weight, because they generally get a lot of muscle loss. And the flip side of that, which is the second thing that I got out of it, was between the first one and the second one, I lost 30 pounds. And I also lost some muscle mass. And it was a good reminder that anytime you lose weight, and it does not matter how you do it, even if you are working out all the time, and I was, you still lose some muscle mass when you lose weight. So more than there being really valuable data, it's like good reminders of the things that it's not just about the number on the scale, that it is about your muscle mass and how you're doing overall.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the impressive things, and I know it's something you are always talking to our first-year bariatric patients with, Lisa, especially when it gets of how quick can we get you in safely into the gym to start lifting heavy, and really focusing on having them progress weight, because yes, our clients do lose at a slightly slower rate, but their body comp looks absolutely ridiculous. And I will say this, we have clients who even they'll get to the point where they're like, we're going to onboard a GLP-1. And it's the same tried and true principles that we say in the first year of bariatric surgery. You need to continue to lift heavy to progress your weights. You need to be very intentional on how you eat. And even with that, the body comp that they get compared to some of the people you see who stop all their habits, patterns, behaviors, like Kylie was saying, it's just totally different. And it's impressive to see the results we get week after week, when we go through our body progress pics, when we go through our client check-ins, when we just talk about how our clients are just physically strong, picking up their kids, grandkids, and showing up for themselves. It's really impressive. All right, so let's dive into okay, I dunked all over the DEXA. Lisa made a very valid point of what you should be looking at a DEXA for, and that's a really good point. Who wants to go first of what data should we be looking at after bariatric surgery and why is it important? Kylie, I appreciate the willingness to hop in. Always the best.
So one thing that we always talk about in Busy Bariatrics is just data and using data for data purposes, right? And one thing that I feel like I see a big transformation in is a lot of clients will come to us saying, I've tried tracking my nutrition in the past, but I just developed this really toxic mentality of tracking my food, my relationship with the food. It's awful. And I hate seeing the numbers. And I get that. But you have to get to the point where tracking becomes about awareness and less about judgment. And that in order to do that, you have to work on your mindset. And we all know, I love mindset management because it's just, I don't know, that's just my thing. Because if you can get your head in the right space and you can track your food, I feel like you can become unstoppable at that point, right? But you can track your food and be the most miserable human on the planet because everything that you're tracking, you're interpreting as some reflection of your worth, of your value, of your success. And that's not what we're supposed to be using that data for. And so it's both a mental thing and tracking your food. They have to go hand in hand. So that's kind of my long spiel thing about tracking your nutrition.
No, I definitely think it plays a big role, and something I've really enjoy seeing you do with a lot of our clients who come in with a hesitation on tracking is you do a really good job of teaching them of not only is it data, but the idea that it's not to eat the lowest under this, but these are goals to consistently eat. And I think a lot of the times you'll see people come in and say oh, I didn't track perfectly my first week. This is an absolute failure. And where I think we do a really good job of coaching staffs of, we really just need you to get one day better. So it's something as simple as well, you tracked 3 days. Let's see if we can do 4 consistently for the next month. And then just really go okay, you did 4 days a week next month. Let's go to 5. We really do play the long game to allow them to get in. Lisa, Stace, any numbers in chronometer you think we should be looking at, or thoughts of what you like to look at in coaches or in clients' chronometers?
I actually like to look at your carbs a lot, and not in the way you think. I'm not looking for your carbs to criticize them. I see a ton of bariatric patients who are afraid of them, and they're also feeling like crap. So if my client is coming to me and saying I'm so tired all the time, I don't feel good, I have no energy, I'm going to look and see if you're eating your carbs, what kind of carbs for quality, And I think it's important to remember, and it's something I've been emphasizing a lot with my clients, is that it's not just about weight loss. It's about fueling your body. It's about holistic nutrition. So I want to see your vegetables. I want to see you eat a piece of bread. I want to, because it's the rest of your life. This is not just this is not another diet. This is how you're going to eat for the rest of your life. So let's make sure we're giving our bodies what we need.
I love that you said that, Lisa, because me and Kylie were actually sidebarring before recording of this idea of where do we look at our eating patterns and when is a diet as opposed to a lifestyle and how to do everything. And I'm always amazed when you see people on Instagram post here's how you pour rice into a bowl, and then here's how you weigh rice in a bowl, and they just put the scale under it and do it. And it's why is this so hard? And then you look at the comment section and people freak out on these people of tracking is disordered, tracking is doing all this. And I'll bring it back to summer camp. Josh Weiner is the first to say the exact same thing with their finances of it's responsibility. It's knowing how much you have, and that discipline gives you freedom to spend yes, I can have 2 extra donuts on a Saturday because I've managed my carb balance for the day and I know I'm having those donuts and I can enjoy them more. As opposed to now I've completely whacked my macros and now I'm derailing and starting over every single Monday morning doing the exact same thing.
I'm going to do a hot take here, which is tracking itself is not the issue. tracking is not your problem.
You're
It's the relationship with food for sure. But is it people in your life who have been telling you to like the Weight Watchers lady when you were 9 years old scrutinizing your points? Was it like there are other experiences and issues around it? Now it's about now we're putting on our big girl pants and saying, what are we making this mean?
Yes.
Like it's you looking at your food. It's you deciding what goes in your body.
Tracking is what helps us pay attention, because paying attention is part of us like recovering and healing and not becoming or going back to who we were prior to bariatric surgery. Like we have to pay attention, and tracking forces us to do that.
And we're also reinforcing it and making it worse by saying, oh no, I can't track, it's triggering. The more that we reinforce the idea that tracking itself is traumatizing, the more traumatizing it is.
Yes. Yes. And I always say like the numbers only become toxic when you like attach your worth to the numbers, or when you give the numbers that power. That's the only time you will ever think that the data is toxic.
The numbers are ultimately the numbers. It's the relationship you attach to them that does the work. And one of the things I think was really cool was after summer camp last year, we really did a good job of, we went into our new module, Healing Your Relationship with Food, and week by week going over where did these relationships start? Where did the habit and pattern come into place? And then how did we replace the trigger loop? And to see our clients really grow from that is still some of my favorite work. Is we have clients who still go back into those modules that are like, I listened and revisited this, or I realized I was spinning out, I went back to here, and it's really helped do some powerful things. Stace, anything in Chronometer you like to look at, or when you're reviewing your data? I know it's a little different as the operations manager.
Yeah, but I can also speak to it as a client. So that's my unique take. And I mean, my thing has always just been the tried and true basic protein. And I think it's important to really be able to keep that on point, because people will always run the risk of under eating their protein. I mean, listen, I've never met a carb that I don't like, and I can overeat my carbs like a champ. I mean, what's my nickname, Rob?
Carby Bob.
Absolutely. But you can very easily undereat your protein. So that's always a number that I've kept a close eye on. And one of the tricks to doing that, and it's knowing your data, is pre-tracking, like knowing how much protein you're going to eat and when. And it helps you to kind of flex your muscle and practice, how much you're going to eat throughout the day, like what your portion size looks like. And, I've talked to many of our bees about kind of the glories of pre-tracking and how it's, when you're doing that, you're writing it in sand and not in stone, because people will be like, well, how do I know I want to eat that tomorrow? It's like, well, you don't, but at least you're kind of spreading out your macros throughout the day, so that if you get to a point in the day and you don't want to eat what you've put in there, you know how much you've got to play with.
And this is where I become the eternal grump, because I will say at some point you have to be an adult. And it's like, yes, how do I know what you're going to eat? Essentially, human beings eat the same lunch if you work in any sort of office job or anything. Like, you have 4 or 5 breakfasts that you have. You have 4 or 5 lunches that you have. Ultimately, unless you're literally using our calendar, which is free if you subscribe to the email list, and we'll leave the link in the bio, you're probably eating at most 20 dinners in some sort of order throughout the week. Maybe that number gets to 30, but it's certainly not getting up to 90 in a 3-month period. And that's really how we do it in the calendar, to be like, there is that variety. And then there is part of it of just like being an adult. A Tuesday dinner does not have to be, the Four Seasons menu. Or if you are going to the Four Seasons on Saturday, just plan accordingly and kind of build around it. But yeah. So I know we have like a lot of good stuff to go, and we got through the first. I'm looking at the time, which is kind of why I love doing these, but also why we sidebar so much. Stacy, go ahead and give us, what data points do you think we should be looking at after bariatric surgery?
Well, I know that posting your hitting your Wonderland on your scale is sexy on Instagram, or posting your bigger sized, your smaller sized clothes, but your lab work, your health numbers. I know no one's ever going to post their glucose monitor or their blood pressure cuff on Instagram, but
they should.
They should. I think that we should start that trend, because those numbers are the numbers that are going to keep you around longer, honestly. And like, just a quick note, my biggest success in June was I walked into my GI doctor and she told me that I completely reversed my fatty liver disease, which was my big why for having bariatric surgery. Yeah.
I was going to say, if you weren't going to say it, I'd say like explaining why that's so important then.
Well, my mother died of cirrhosis of the liver. I was at stage 4 fatty liver disease. The next thing after stage 4 fatty liver disease is non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver. Once you hit cirrhosis, you don't reverse it. That's it. It's, game over. In 2020, my liver numbers, and it's like called like kilopascals, which is like the stiffness of your liver. Anything over 14 is stage 4. I was at 43.4 in 2020. This year, I'm at 6.4. Anything under 7 is no fatty liver.
It's life-saving. And that's the data that we talk about of like why it is so important. Kylie, Lisa, any other labs that you kind of want to look for in a client, or that you're like, this is a number I should be thinking about?
Well, I want to say, Stacy, first of all, like that is the entire reason we have bariatric surgery, right? Is for like wins like that. Like that's incredible to me. So great job, because that just makes me want to cry happy tears for you. But I feel like when it comes to lab work, after bariatric surgery, our body just like absorbs things differently. I mean, our body, and so really, just like Stacy said, it really is a good way to just make sure that your health is in check. Because even me, who's 13 years post-op, every now and again, some weird deficiency pops up, and I'm like, okay, right? So it's just another data indicator to kind of help us make sure that we're doing everything that we can. Because sometimes there are things that happen and we think we're doing everything right. And then we're like, oh gosh, like my ferritin levels are really low, but I take iron every day. Like, what's going on? Like, I'm taking my vitamins. And so that's kind of something like for myself, what I'm working through with my doctor right now, because like weird things can go on that you're like, what is happening? Like, I have lots of salt in my food every day, and I do the pink Himalayan salt, and I do all of the things, but my electrolytes are low. And I'm like, gosh, this is weird. So it creates that conversation with your doctor so that you can make sure that your body is in an optimal place and you're continuing to stay healthy.
Kylie, and I think it's also the better part that you have all that mentioned of like when you're tracking your food and nutrition, you can bring that to the doctor as well as your regular lab work and be like, here's where it was at this point. Here's where it is now. Here is what my diet is showing. And that covers it. It's a really good point. Lisa, anything else we should be looking at? Or Kylie, keep it going.
Sorry, I just want to say, I think doctors will take you more seriously as well if you show them that like you're tracking your food, because I do feel like it makes you
100%.
Okay, that's all. Sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, two of the big things amongst bariatric patients are A1C and cholesterol. Mm-hmm. It's that we see or hear so much people who are pre-diabetic or diabetic before they have bariatric surgery. So A1C is always going to be a concern, but bariatric surgery is also very effective in reversing that. And then cholesterol, I can say not only making sure that your bad cholesterol and your triglycerides are at a healthy level, but also that your good cholesterol is at a healthy level. And, I can say for myself, my cholesterol's come down quite a bit. Anything I'm left with is hereditary at this point. But I also, and Kylie can probably back this up, is that they're actually seeing some great cholesterol reductions with GLP-1s beyond what people are getting doing their surgery and their food tracking.
I will say that was probably one of the more alarming data points I got last year when they went through a lot of my heart scans and everything else, was they were like, you have ridiculously high cholesterol for your healthy cholesterol. And I'm like, here is my data for 6 years. And I will say though, like, and I'm really lucky, like my primary care physician, the team at Penn Medicine, they love and trust me to the fact that like they know I'm not just someone coming in of like, oh, I had a bad day or a rough night's sleep, I need like the full blood panel. It's like, no, point to me where this is, and at some point it is genetic, and they are finding, more research finding with GLP-1s to help with cholesterol levels on both I always mess up letters, so it's like HDL, LDL. Did I get that right? All right, we're ending the episode because I'm not going to get that right if we do it ever again. So this has been lovely, everyone. But no, in all seriousness, though, I think the blood panel, like getting it every 6 months if you can, I think is important. And then it just gives you the proper data. Like a lot of the times I think we have clients who are like, my hormones are out of whack. And I'm like, well, how do you know? And they're like, well, I'm at an age or a stage and I think that's it. And I'm like, I get that, but like, where is the data proving that? And then even going into further depth with like getting a Dutch test or some of the other lab work done if you are perimenopausal or menopausal just to get hormone regulation. And I will say Chelsea Bernandez did an amazing job on the podcast last summer talking about how to read hormone patterns.
And I will say too, with hormone levels, especially estrogen levels, it's when people tell you that you cannot take a blood test to find out whether you are in perimenopause or not, it's absolutely true. Because your hormones fluctuate by the day, by the month. So you're only capturing a moment in time when you're doing this. So, there are other things. I mean, even as women, there are like testosterone levels to worry about and things like that. But it's a very tricky game trying to figure out by blood tests where you are in your process. So
yeah, and that's why doing the Dutch test and everything else, and I'm excited because Stephanie Crossweller, who's probably one of the top hormone and gut experts, is coming in and going through summer camp and going through specifically how to tell and what the signs and symptoms are you have to adjust. And I gotta tell you, I'm just smitten by her. I think she does a great job of teaching, and her podcast is very bite-sized and does a good job of it. So
I'm binging it right now. It's so awesome. Like if you're not listening to it out there, after you listen to this podcast
and all of our catalog and
all of our back catalog, then go listen to Stephanie's.
It really is a wealth of things, and it's kind of the cool part is to see so many of some of the top names in the industry are teaching and preaching the exact same things we are with just a little bit of a different spice on it, but it matters a lot. So Lise, we got Kylie, we got Stacy. What's the data we should be looking at from your perspective?
Let's start looking at our workout data. So there are a couple things I want to say about this. Is number one, you want to record your workout data, your lifts. You want to record each set individually, and you want to look at it over time. So if we're talking about a big lift like a bench press, we're recording each set. If your rep range is like 10 to 12 reps and you're hitting 12 reps every time and you're not increasing your weight, you're not doing yourself any favors. I just want to dispel the idea that it's supposed to be easy.
Or that it could be too bulky.
Or not going to happen.
I always laugh because bodybuilders spend millions of dollars on supplements, coaches, everything else trying to get bulky. Nobody gets bulky by accident. Mm-hmm. And if anything, like go on the Busy Bariatrics webpage. We have just client after client after client and coach after coach after coach who lift heavy and just get leaner and their physiques get better.
I'm as lean as I've ever been in my entire life. And but it's really like when I review our clients' data, because I review the workout data of every client in Busy Bariatric. And I see, sometimes I'll see a lot of like doing 15 reps of something at the same weight, week after week after week. We have to challenge ourselves. Like that's where you grow. In the uncomfortable place, that's where you grow. So if you're tracking your data over time, you can see improvement. And look, it's all relative. So I have clients who are starting at 3-pound weights, and I'm just as much celebrating their move to a 5 or an 8 or a 10. It's all relative to where you are. But you're looking for the signs that you're continuously challenging yourself.
I think especially when we look at like so many of our clients are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s and are getting back into the gym or building muscle and bone density. And it's a very common thing I hear is like, I'm only doing 5 pounds. And I'm like, well, you did no pounds for maybe a decade. So getting up to 5 and just working your reps works well. And you've actually helped so many of our clients come back from injuries of having very intentional of, yes, we're going to slow down the tempo so that we have more time under tension with a lighter weight. But a lot of the things you've been able to fix just come from people sending you form videos and it's like, oh, well, tuck your elbow in on this exercise a little bit more, or you're hinging on a wrong angle, which causes your back to fold like a accordion. Like just simple adjustments where if you're tracking your data and tracking your lifts, it tunes everything perfectly.
I mean, we're living in a bigger body, like our joints take a beating. So we have a lot of knee problems, we have a lot of shoulder problems, and small adjustments. And this is why you work with a coach, really, is small adjustments to something like a lat raise. Bringing it in just a touch is changing the angles and putting less pressure on the joint. Now you don't have to know that. Then we know things like that, but having somebody look at that stuff for you and really working with somebody through whatever limitations, restrictions you have. But it's also about building, if we're talking about a knee, building the muscles around the knee to better support the knee. So yeah, this is the stuff we need to pay attention to because we want to not only change our body composition, but we want to make ourselves more functional.
When I want to make if we're having like Stacy's going to be Carby Barbie and we're going to make her matching friend lifting Lisa, the pull string on the back of your doll is going to say like, send a form video, send a failure video, and then maybe like you need to see a doctor. And we could probably just keep pulling the string and put that in there. So.
And we record every set as reps at weight. That's my other one. But
yeah, and I will say, like, the reason we want so many things done uniformed and that we want to look at it is to make sure that, one, you're doing it safely. But the biggest pet peeve I hear is people say they're in the gym for months and they either don't look like they lift or they're lifting the same weights. And it's like, we really do a job of making sure that we are challenging our clients to lift heavier based on what their goal is, but also to build the physique that comes from doing all of that work. And it's probably some of the coolest things that I see is like, I was a little hesitant to like give it up to you, Lisa, but I think you do a much better job than I do of like giving them the proper form and technique and getting everything, and it's recorded, so that'll count as your like holiday.
Back.
But no, it's also one of those.
I learned it from you, Dad.
I'm sure therapy will come through well for both of us on that comment. But either way, it's a testament of like, I think that's also something that comes up when people are like, can we work in Busy Bariatrics? Or like, I feel like I know Rob or work with everyone. We all have the same philosophies that some of the biggest names in the coaches industry does. And it's because we're good coaches. Like, I literally could be like, okay, if you like Stephanie Crasweller that much, I'll walk you over into her program. And not much is different from her, Jared's, Brian Cassim's, Mike Milner's, Eric Box. I could go with Beth Farraco. All the big names are kind of doing essentially the same thing. It's just a question of like, how do you build the rapport with the client? How do you meet them where they're at? And I will say one of the best things we do is we give daily feedback on workouts to make sure that you are progressing day in and day out.
I got to tell you guys something funny though, because, and Beth, if you're listening, this is for you too. One of my clients caught me doing looms at like 1:00 in the morning.
We've all been there.
And the first thing she said to me was, what would Beth say about that? And I said, oh, she'd say, go the F to sleep. And she's like, absolutely. They're listening.
And it's a testament that even as coaches, we're not perfect. And it's the reason why coaches have coaches is just to keep accountable. Like there are times and reasons and seasons in my journey, I'm not doing the best from a bariatric or a fitness standpoint, but I would be doing much worse had I not checked in with my coach and made sure that everything comes in. And it's why, like, I think we always sound like broken records as well, is this idea of like, when it gets hard, that's exactly why you're paying a coach to work. Because when you're doing everything right and the weight's falling off and you're lifting heavy, it's like, yes, good job. we're not going to tell you to change anything because it's working. It's how do we make you stay either patient, consistent, or persistent through those difficult times that really do the difference. This is the part where one of you hops in and says,
no, absolutely. I mean, there's just no question about it. Because look, we always say, Rob always says reasons and seasons, right? We go through injuries, we go through illnesses, we go through personal problems. Like this is life. This is what happens. But through coaching, I can say Rob's my coach. I know what my non-negotiables are. I know how to lock myself in even when I can't lift anything right now. But I'm not worried about it at all.
Neither am I.
I know how to lock in.
It's also like we've gone through multiple injuries since working together for 3 years, Lisa. And I say that in the best way possible of like this last one, I had to laugh a little bit because Lisa, explain what you did. And then I'm going to say what I shared.
Okay. I didn't do anything.
Exactly. That's what makes it so good.
So I am 51 years old and I'm extremely nearsighted. And apparently it's a thing that the vitreous, the jelly part of your eye, like starts pulling away from the retina as you get older. And all of a sudden I just started having these little like electric arc flashes and like blurry spots, floaters. And I freaked out. It was on Father's Day. My eye doctor came in on Father's Day to see my eyeball. And it turns out that a piece of the vitreous is now floating around my eyeball. And I'm just like that now, apparently. But in the 3 weeks following that, I can't lift anything or bend over too much because I don't want to increase the pressure on my eye because it could become a retinal issue.
Yeah. It's the sad part of, between having a bicep tear, torn rotator cuff, or like part of your retina just floating around in your skull. It's like as you get older, things just kind of happen in wear and tear or their lifetime achievement awards. And I think what I'm always proudest of, we have clients in their 60s and 70s who either come to us with a pre-existing injury or something else. And we really do a good job of working around the injury. And a theme that like we always constantly repeat is push it where it feels good, pull back where it doesn't. And then also go see a doctor. Like see a doctor. Like we are not doctors. We don't even play ones on TV.
Absolutely. And the first thing I said to Rob too was I was just about to start new programming because I had just had a physique conversation with Rob. I'm like, I need to build up my shoulders and my back because that's the physique I'm looking for. I was about to start some good glute workouts. I was excited, but that will still happen in 2 weeks.
It will. There's nothing better than when I'm like, okay, I'm going to craft all this out. And I was like, hey, coach, guess what's up? And it's like, okay, we're there.
Hey, my eyeball just exploded, but no big deal.
I mean, some people do anything to get out of like new programming. It's kind of funny like that.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, gang, I'm looking at the time and I want to respect everyone who is still listening. Although all the data says after 35 minutes, we can confess to anything and nobody listens to this. But
there was this drifter.
Yeah, exactly. I mentioned that like all the last season was like, oh yeah, this could be a true crime podcast at the 35-minute mark. Nobody would know. But I'm going to go through some and just tell me if I'm missing any. So if you're listening to this episode and you had to think of what can I do tomorrow to get it done, I would say like buy a cheap body weight scale. Are we all kind of in agreement of that? Like some of the tricks like body fat if you don't already have it.
Info. Just grab a info on Amazon.
They're not paying us for that, Stacy. That we mentioned it once briefly during the episode. At the end, we do not leave links in the show notes unless they pay us. Hard boundaries. But no. And this is the part where I say, like, pull your last labs as well as the next data point. And this episode is brought to you by LabCorp. Need to get your blood drawn or your stool shipped in a box? LabCorp has it for you. See, Stace, that's how it's done. Lisa, log your lifts, start tracking your weights, progressions, everything else. Kylie, get into chronometers, start tracking. All right. Well, gang, we are that part of the episode where we're kind of done. So just a recurring listener reminder, you're not uncoachable. You just haven't worked with our team yet. So if this episode hit, that means it's time to stop collecting awareness and start applying action. And as always, keep getting busy. Have a great one, everyone. Bye.
Bye.